You keep wishing. Wishing for the job, wishing for the relationship, wishing for the healing, wishing for the change. And that wishing, I tell you, is the very thing keeping it all at arm's length. Because to wish is to declare that you do not have. To wish is to declare that you do not have. To wish is to bow before the altar of absence. And as long as you are wishing, you are feeling the lack of the thing, not the reality of it. Feeling is the secret. Not wishing, not wanting. Feeling is the secret. Not wishing, not wanting. And there is a world of difference between the two. One keeps you circling the well, tossing pennies into the dark. The other places the water in your hands. Today we are going to walk through that difference together, and I am going to show you exactly how to stop wishing and start feeling. Because once you understand this, truly understand it, everything changes. The thing you have been chasing stops running. It turns toward you. It was always yours. Welcome. If this is your first time here, you have arrived at the right moment. This channel is dedicated entirely to the teachings of Neville Goddard, one of the most profound and practical mystics of the 20th century. We do not add to his teaching. We do not blend it with other philosophies. We simply unpack it, explore it, live it, and share it with you in a way that makes it immediate and applicable to your life right now. And if you have been here before, welcome back. You know what we do here. We go deep. We go inward and become out changed. Today we are answering one of the most important questions you will ever ask yourself as a conscious creator. What is the difference between wishing and feeling? And more importantly, how do you stop doing one and start doing the other? Because that shift, that subtle inner pivot, is the difference between a lifetime of longing and a life of continuous fulfillment. Let us begin. Let me tell you something that Neville said again and again, in lecture after lecture, in book after book. He said that consciousness is the only reality, that your awareness, your sense of being, your I am, is the creative power of the universe, not something that might one day attract what you want, not a tool you use to influence some external force. No, consciousness itself is the substance of all things. What you are, conscious of being, you are, and what you are, you experience. Now that is the foundation. That is the ground we stand on. But here is where people stumble. They hear that teaching and they think, all right, I will be conscious of what I want. I will think about it. I will wish for it really hard. I will visualize it while feeling how much I want it. And then they wonder why nothing changes. Or worse, why the very thing they want seems to move further away. And the reason is this. They are not feeling from the wish fulfilled. They are feeling the wish itself. Do you see the difference? One is the feeling of already having. The other is the feeling of not having and wanting to have. And that feeling, that inner state, is what creates. Not your words, not your visualizations in themselves. Your feeling, your inner conviction, your sense of self in relation to the thing. Neville called this the feeling of the wish fulfilled. And he meant it precisely, not the feeling of wishes of the thing. Neville called this the feeling of the wish fulfilled. And he meant it precisely. Let us go deeper into what wishing actually is. When you wish for something, what is happening inside you? You are imagining the thing. Yes, you are thinking about it. Yes, but beneath that thought, beneath that image, there is a feeling. And that feeling is one of separation. You are here. The thing is there. You are incomplete. The thing would complete. You are aching. The thing would fill the lack. You see, wishing is always from a position of absence. It is always a confession of not having. A child wishes for a toy because they do not have the toy. A woman wishes for a partner because she does not have the partner. A man wishes for wealth because he does not have the wealth. And each time they wish, they are feeling the reality of the absence more vividly than the reality of the presence. They are rehearsing the lack. And what does consciousness do? It hardens into fact the state you occupy. If you occupy the state of wishing, you will continue to have things to wish for. The wishing will perpetuate itself, because creation is finished. All things already exist, and you, by virtue of your inner state, select which version of reality you experience. If you walk through life in the state of one who wishes, you will walk through a reality that reflects that state back to you endlessly. Opportunities that almost happen, desires that almost manifest, almost and nearlys and maybes, almost manifest, almost and This is not punishment. This is law. This is the principle Neville spent his entire life teaching. You do not get what you want. You get what you are. Now let us turn to feeling. And I mean feeling in the Neville sense. Not emotion, though emotion may accompany it. Not sensation, though sensation may arise. Feeling, in this teaching, means the acceptance of the wish as already fulfilled. It means the inner knowledge, the quiet certainty, the assumptive state of already being the one who has the thing. Neville said it so simply. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, not the feeling of wishing, the feeling of fulfillment. And that is a completely different inner posture. When you feel from the state of having, you are no longer looking at the thing from a distance. You are looking out from it. You are standing in the reality of it. You have claimed it inwardly, and because all things exist in consciousness first, you have claimed it actually. The outer world, Neville told us, is always a delayed reflection of the inner. It has no choice but to conform. But it conforms to your state, not to your wishes. So if you walk around wishing you were confident, you remain in the state of someone who lacks confidence. But if you assume the feeling of being confident, if you imagine yourself moving through the world as a confident person would, and you do this until it feels natural, until it feels like you, then confidence is yours. And the world will reflect it back to you in 1,000 ways. People will treat you as confident. Opportunities will come that require confidence. You will look in the mirror and see it in your own eyes, not because you worked for it in the outer world, but because you claimed it in the inner. Let me give you an example, a true story, one that Neville himself told. There was a woman who desperately wanted to marry a certain man. She thought about him constantly. She wished and hoped and prayed. She talked to her friends about him. She analyzed every word he said to her, looking for signs, and nothing happened. Months went by. He was polite, friendly even, but there was no movement toward marriage, no movement even toward romance. And then she came to one of Neville's lectures, and Neville told her, stop wishing for him, stop wanting him, go inward and assume you are already his wife. She did not understand at first. How could she assume such a thing when it was not true? And Neville said, it is not outwardly, because you have not yet made it true inwardly. You are living in the state of wanting to be his wife. Live in the state of being his wife. So she tried. Every night as she fell asleep, she imagined herself in bed next to him, not as a fantasy, not as a wish, but as a memory, as though it were the most natural thing in the world. She felt the ring on her finger. She heard him breathing beside her. She let herself feel the contentment, the settledness, the simplicity of being married to him. And she did this until it felt real, until it felt more real than her outer circumstances. And within weeks everything shifted. He called her. He pursued her. He proposed. They married. And when she told Neville the story, she said the strangest thing happened. It was not that he changed. It was that she changed. She stopped being the woman who wanted him and became the woman who had him. And once she was that woman inwardly, he had no choice but to see her that way, outwardly. Do you see what happened there? She stopped wishing. She stopped feeding the state of lack, and she entered into the state of fulfillment. She did not wait for the outer world to change so that she could feel fulfilled. She felt fulfilled first, and the outer world rearranged itself to match. This is the principle. This is the law. And it works in every area of life: money, health, career, relationship, self-concept. It does not matter. The principle is always the same. Wishing is from lack, feeling is from having, and you must choose which state you will occupy. Now I know what some of you are thinking, but I do lack the thing. It is not here. How can I feel that I have it when I do not? And this, my friend, is the crux of the entire teaching. You are assuming that the outer world is the real world. You are assuming that what you see with your physical eyes is the truth, and that what you imagine is merely fantasy. But Neville turns that completely on its head. He says that imagination is the real world, that consciousness is the only reality, that the outer world is shadow, echo, reflection. It has no power of its own. It is simply showing you what you have already claimed inwardly. So when you say, I do not have it, what you mean is, I do not see it with my physical eyes yet. But that is not the same as saying it does not exist. It exists. Creation is finished. Every possible version of your life already exists in the infinite field of consciousness. And you, by virtue of your inner state, select which version you experience. So when you assume the feeling of already having the thing, you are not pretending. You are not lying to yourself, you are selecting. You are tuning the dial of your consciousness to the station where that reality is already playing. And as you dwell there, as you live from that state, the outer world must and will reflect it. This is what Neville meant when he said, "Dare to assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled." It is a dare because it requires you to go against the evidence of your senses. It requires you to place your imagination above the so-called facts. It requires you to live by faith, which is not belief in something external, but loyalty to your inner vision. And most people will not do it. They will wish, they will hope, they will try, but they will not assume. They will not commit inwardly. And so they remain in the loop of wanting, waiting. But you, I tell you, you can step out of that loop today, right now. Not by changing anything in the outer world, by changing your inner state, by feeling differently. Let us now go into the mechanics of this. How exactly do you flip a wish into a feeling? How do you move from the state of wanting to the state of having? Because this is practical. This is not abstract philosophy. This is something you do. It is a technique, a discipline, a practice. And like any skill, it becomes easier the more you do it. The first step is to catch yourself wishing. And you will be surprised how often you do this. You say things like, "I wish I had more money. I wish I felt better. I wish they would call. I wish things were different." Every one of those statements is a declaration of lack. It is you telling yourself and the universe, "I do not have this." And the universe, which is your own consciousness pushed out, says, "You are right, you do not." And it gives you more experiences of not having. So catch the wish. Notice it. Do not judge yourself for it. Just notice it. And then gently, deliberately flip it. How do you flip it? You turn the wish into a statement of fact. "I wish I had more money" becomes "I have more than enough." "I wish I felt better" becomes "I feel wonderful." "I wish they would call" becomes "They are thinking of me fondly right now." Do you see? You are not denying the wish. You are fulfilling it inwardly. You are denied. You are granting yourself the thing in imagination. And then, here is the key. You dwell there. You do not just say the words and move on. You feel into them. You let them land. You ask yourself, what would it feel like if this were true? And you let that feeling rise. You let it fill you. You do not force it. You do not manufacture it. You simply assume it is true. And the feeling follows assumption. You do not need to generate the feeling through effort. You generate it through acceptance. Let me walk you through an example. Suppose you are someone who wishes you felt more confident in social situations. You notice that every time you are about to walk into a room full of people, you feel a flutter of anxiety. You wish you felt confident. You wish you were the kind of person who walked in easily, smiled, spoke without second-guessing. That is the wish. Now, instead of wishing, you stop. You close your eyes for just a moment, and you assume. You say inwardly, "I am confident, I move through the world with ease. People enjoy my presence." And then you imagine yourself walking into that room as that person, not as someone trying to be confident, as someone who is confident. You see yourself smiling naturally. You hear your own voice, steady and warm. You feel the looseness in your shoulders, the openness in your chest. You let the scene play for just a few seconds. And then you open your eyes and you go. You do not wait to feel different before you act. You act from the assumption, and the feeling catches up. And if the old anxiety tries to return, you do not fight it. You simply return to the assumption. "I am confident, I am at ease. This is who I am." And little by little, the outer matches the inner. People respond to you differently. Conversations flow. You find yourself enjoying what you used to dread. Not because the people changed, because you changed. You stopped wishing you were confident and started being confident inwardly, and that inner shift is the only shift that matters. Now let me be very clear about something. This is not positive thinking. This is not affirmations in the way most people use them. Neville was not interested in repeating words you do not believe. He was interested in assumption, in occupying a state, in feeling from the end. You can say, "I am wealthy" 1,000 times. But if underneath those words you are feeling the anxiety of bills, the fear of lack, the resentment of not having, then you are not assuming wealth. You are wishing for it. The words do not matter. The state matters. The inner condition matters. And the way you know what state you are in is by observing your feeling, not your emotion of the moment, but your underlying sense of self. Do you feel like someone who has or someone who lacks? Do you feel like someone waiting for change or someone living from the change already made? That is the question, and you must answer it honestly, because you cannot lie to consciousness. It knows. It is you. Here is another way to think about it. Wishing is always future-oriented. I wish I will have. I hope I will be. I want it to happen someday. The feeling of the wish fulfilled, is present-oriented. I have. I am. It is done. This is one of the most important distinctions Neville ever made. He said that the feeling of the wish fulfilled is always a feeling of relief, of completion, of it is done, not it will be done. It is done. And when you touch that feeling, even for a moment, you have planted the seed. You have impressed consciousness. And consciousness, being the only reality, must produce the fruit. It has no choice. It is law. So I want you to start watching your language. Not just your spoken language, but your inner language. The conversations you have with yourself all day long. How often are you wishing? How often are you hoping, wanting, trying, needing? And every time you catch yourself, flip it. Turn it into a statement of fact. Turn it into a statement of fact. Turn it into an assumption. And then feel into that assumption until it becomes familiar, until it becomes you. This is the work. This is the work. This is the practice. And it is the most important work you will ever do, because it is the work of creation. You are not trying to get something from the universe. You are impressing the universe, which is yourself, with the state you choose to embody. And the universe, being perfectly obedient, reflects that state back to you in form. Now let us take this a step further. Let us talk about the inner feeling of already having versus the outer appearance of not having. This is where people get confused. They say, Neville tells me to feel that I already have it, but I look around and I see that I do not. How do I reconcile that? And the answer is, you do not reconcile it. You choose. You choose which reality you will be loyal to, the outer or the inner. And Neville says, always choose the inner, always be loyal to your imaginal act, always return to the feeling of the wish fulfilled, no matter what the senses report. Because the senses are reporting yesterday's state. The outer world is always a little behind. It is showing you the result of who you were, not who you are now. So if you change inwardly and then immediately look outward for proof, you will be disappointed. You will see the old reflected back at you. And if you react to that, if you let that outer appearance convince you that your inner work, then you drop the state. You fall back into wishing. And the cycle continues. But if you hold steady, if you remain faithful to the inner, the outer must catch up. It has no choice. This is the promise. This is the law. Neville told a story about a man who wanted to be in business for himself. He had worked for someone else for years and he deeply desired independence. But he had no capital, no connections, no clear path. And he spent a long time wishing it would happen, wishing someone would give him an opportunity, wishing someone would give him an opportunity. And of course nothing changed. Then he heard Neville speak. And Neville told him, stop wishing, go inward and live from the end. Imagine you are already in business for yourself. Feel the independence, feel the satisfaction. So the man did. Every night he would imagine himself in his own office. He would feel the weight of decisions that were his alone to make. He would hear people calling him boss. He would imagine depositing checks made out to his company. And he did this not as a wish, but as a fact. He lived in that state inwardly. And within a short time, a series of seemingly unrelated events unfolded. A former colleague reached out. A small loan came through that he had forgotten he applied for. A location became available. And before he fully understood how it happened, he was in business for himself. Everything he had imagined came to pass, not because he wished for it, but because he felt from it. He occupied the state, and the state produced the conditions. This is how it works. Always. In every case. You do not make things happen. You do not force or manipulate or control. You simply assume the state of the wish fulfilled, and all things necessary to the fulfillment of that state come to pass. Neville called this living in the end, and it is the single most powerful practice you can ever engage in. Not visualizing from a distance, not wishing from lack, but living in the end, feeling from the end, being inwardly the person who already has the thing. Now let me give you a very practical exercise. Something you can do today. Something you can do tonight. I want you to take one thing you have been wishing for, just one. It can be large or small, it does not matter. And I want you to write it down as a wish first. I wish I had. I wish I were. I wish they would. Write it exactly as you have been thinking it. And then, right beneath it, I want you to rewrite it as a statement of present fact. I have. I am. They did. And then, tonight, before you fall asleep, I want you to construct a short scene that implies the fulfillment of that statement. Not a scene of you getting the thing. A scene that could only happen if you already had the thing. This is vital. You are not imagining the process. You are imagining from the result. If your wish is for financial freedom, do not imagine money coming to you. Imagine yourself doing something you would only do if you were financially free. Perhaps you are booking a trip without checking the price. Perhaps you are writing a check to a charity. Perhaps you are simply sitting in peace, knowing all your needs are met. The scene should be simple. It should be short. It should feel natural. And most importantly, it should imply the wish fulfilled. Once you have your scene, you enter into it, not as an observer, as the participant. You see from your own eyes. You hear with your own ears. You feel with your own body. And you loop the scene gently. You do not force it. You do not strain. You simply repeat it in a relaxed, drowsy state until it feels real, until you feel the satisfaction of it, the relief of it, the simplicity of it. Then you let yourself drift off to sleep from within that scene. This is the practice Neville called the state akin to sleep, or SATS, and it is the most effective way to impress the subconscious mind with a new state, because in that drowsy state, the conscious mind, with all its doubts and objections and logic, steps aside, and the subconscious, which is the creative power, accepts what you imagine as fact. And once it accepts it as fact, it begins to build it in your outer world. Not someday. Now, it begins now. Do this every night for a week. The same scene, the same feeling, and watch what happens. You will notice changes. Some subtle, some dramatic, but the changes will come. And they will come not because you wished, but because you felt, because you assumed, because you occupied the state of already having, and consciousness, being the only reality, had no choice but to harden that state into fact. Now let's pull back and look at the bigger picture. Why does this matter beyond just getting what you want? Why does Neville again and again bring us back to feeling, to state, to consciousness? Because this teaching is not ultimately about things. It is about you. It is about who you are. You are not a person in the world trying to get things from the world. You are consciousness itself. You are the operant power. You are the I am. And everything you experience is you pushed out. The world is not happening to you. The world is happening from you. And once you truly understand that, once you truly understand that, once you truly understand that, once you truly feel that, everything changes. You stop being a beggar. You stop being a victim. You stop waiting for permission or opportunity or luck. You start creating deliberately. You start living from the inside out. And that is freedom. That is power. Not power over others. Power over your own experience. Power to choose who you will be, and therefore what you will experience. Neville said, "You are not a man seeking God. You are God seeking expression." And every time you assume a state, every time you feel from the wish fulfilled, you are expect God. You are creating as God creates, by fiat, by assumption, by inner conviction. This is the great secret. This is the pearl of great price. And it is yours, not because you earned it, not because you are special, but because it is what you are. You are consciousness. You are the creator. And the moment you stop wishing and start feeling, you step into your true identity. You stop pretending to be powerless, and you remember that you are power itself. So what is the difference between wishing and feeling? Wishing says, "I do not have, but I want." Feeling says, "I have." Wishing looks at the thing from the outside, longing. Feeling looks out from the thing, fulfilled. Wishing keeps you in the state of lack, and lack perpetuates. Feeling places you in the state of lack, and lack perpetuates. Feeling places you in the state of having, period. And what will your world reflect back to you? Only and always the state you occupy. the state you actually occupy, the state you at. So occupy the state of your wish fulfilled. Stop wishing your life were different. Start feeling that it is different. Start being inwardly the person who already has what you desire. And the outer world, being nothing but a mirror, will reflect that person back to you in every detail. This is not magic. This is law. This is the way consciousness works. And you do not need to understand it fully to use it. You just need to do it. Assume, feel, persist, and let the law take care of the how. You do not need to know how it will happen. You do not need to figure out the path. You simply need to occupy the state, and the path will appear. The way will open. The thing will come. Not because you forced it, but because you claimed it inwardly, and the inner is the real. The inner is the cause. The outer is the effect. Let me lead you with this thought as we close. Tonight, as you prepare for sleep, you have a choice. Tonight, as you prepare for sleep, you have a choice. You can lie down in the state of wishing, rehearsing all the things you do not have, all the ways your life is not yet what you want it to be. Or you can lie down in the state of fulfillment. You can imagine yourself as the one who already has. You can feel the reality of your desire fulfilled. You can live for those few moments before sleep in the end. And as you fall asleep in that state, you impress it upon consciousness. You plant the seed, and consciousness, being the soil in which all things grow, will bring it forth. It must. It is law. So stop wishing, stop hoping, stop waiting, start feeling, start assuming, start feeling. Be the person who already has. Live from that state, and watch as the world rushes to confirm what you have claimed. You are not kept from your desire by circumstances, by time, by other people, by lack of resources. You are kept from it only by the state you occupy. And the moment you change your state, everything changes. This is the teaching. This is the truth. And it is yours to prove. Go and prove it. Assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Do it tonight. Do it now. And do it until the outer reflects the inner so perfectly that you forget there was ever a time when you wished for anything, because you live now in the continual feeling of having everything. That is your birthright. That is your power. And that is the difference between wishing and feeling. One keeps you stuck, the other sets you free. Choose feeling. Choose the state of fulfillment, and live from there, always.